its own, the state of California was building its own waterworks, just as big, just as expensive as the Central Valley Project. Pat Brown's waterworks would cost as much as the Manhattan Project.
The size of the State Water Project is something you almost have to see to believe.
Horrible danger, solid earth, and almost half a mile thick at the base.
It's just about 150 feet shy of the Eiffel Tower. The pump lift at the Tehachapi Mountains is about 3,000 feet. So you have a river running uphill 2/3 of a mile.
Even before the Central Valley Project was finished, we were already building a second project, just as big.
The presidential helicopter stirs up clouds of dust as it lands in Los Baños, California, where Mr. Kennedy is to break ground for another federal state conservation endeavor.
It's a pleasure for me to come out here and help blow up this valley in the cause of progress.
By the late 60s, federal and state waterworks had lifted the rivers out of their ancient beds and delivered them to every corner of the Great Dry Valley. Soon, Bureau water would reach even the Westlands, most desolate part of the San Joaquin, a 1,000-square-mile district as dry as the Mojave. The local congressman predicted that the Westlands would soon be settled by thousands of small farmers.
Okay, if you need more, it's okay.
The large pumps are going to 283.
Decrease the total release of the Feather River from 4,000 to 3,500.
You really have to go to the control room of the state and federal water projects in Sacramento. I mean, here we had these rivers, big rivers, that used to engorge and spill, and now you have a few technicians sitting at a big bank of computers, and they regulate the whole thing. In fact, every morning they decide who is going to get how much water and power, and they just meter it out in a steady flow to 32 million people and 10 million acres of land. It's really a remarkable feat.
By 1974, the state of California had the 6th largest economy in the world, larger than all but the 5 greatest industrial nations. In 105-degree heat, without rain, farmers could grow nearly all the fruits and vegetables of the Midwest and Florida.
When the canal came, the farm really grew big here. So what I really miss is the nature. The pheasants and coyotes, everything had left.
Then the machine came, and we all got scared and said we were going to be out of a job, but no, we had more work. We'd drive the machine, it was easier.
If it rained in the summer, we'd be in big trouble. It's the fact that through irrigation, we can precisely apply the water at the right time. You can stress the cotton plant. You cannot give it water for a while, and that plant thinks it's going into a drought, and it's going to put on the bolls, then you put the water to it, and you get a better crop. Rain is an enemy. So we're blessed with that dry summer, and combine the irrigation, and you've got something magical.
The new water supplies brought new mechanization and spectacular production that continues to this day. The University of California joined with growers and manufacturers to research specialized machinery for large irrigated farms.
Well, you're talking about farms that 20,000 acres, 50,000 acres, 100,000 acres, and these lands just overwhelm anything that people thought about in these forms of agriculture in the southeastern United States, and there was just nothing like the Central Valley. Everybody else in the country was relying on God to give them water, and these guys got it from the U.S. government, and they got it when they wanted it, time of day, day of the month, time of the year, and they got it almost free.
A few researchers noted alarming changes amid the prosperity: accumulation of salt and pesticide residue, worsening conditions for farm labor, the lack of small farms, and the disappearance of salmon. Congress did not share their concerns, and Western water projects rolled through Congress as they had for decades.
I've always referred to it as the Iron Triangle, which is really an alliance that was developed between local sponsors, their congressional delegation, and the Bureau of Reclamation, or the Water Development Agency, the Corps of Engineers. They were the heart and the soul. They were the oil that made the engine of the Congress run.
People voted for each other's dam projects. Every congressman wanted one, and every congressman got one if he voted for everybody else's. The way that legislation passed often was the committee chairman's favorite dam was stuck onto it, even though it was an education bill. Dams mean pork barrel.
I mean, the Civil Rights Act, for example, would have never been passed without the benefit of using, pork barrel water projects. Staff in the White House and the Office of Management and Budget prepared as a matter of routine a list of water projects which were not justified and ought not to be funded. President Nixon and then President Ford all, of course, said, this is very interesting and I really appreciate the hard work you've gone to prepare this list, but no way am I going to do this, and they rejected it. And that's primarily because they were insider politicians. They knew how the Congress operated, and President Carter was an outsider.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
When presidents come in and think that they're president, this is a serious mistake. They're only one element of government.
So along comes this former peanut farmer and governor named Jimmy Carter, who looks at the system and says, wait a minute.
Barely a month in office, Carter cut funds from 19 Western water projects under construction, saying they were bad for the environment and too expensive.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the President of the United States.
President Carter was there late at night in his office, and there were 12 advisors with him, and, all 12 of them said, don't do this. Well, and he voted yes, they all voted no, and he went ahead and did it.
No, President Carter came in with a chip on his shoulder and a hit list in his pocket that he was going to stop a lot of projects that were unnecessary.
It was the first time that any politician had taken a 2x4 and conked the donkey on top of the head.
You're dealing here with projects in the case of Central Arizona that go back 30 or 40 years, thousands of hours of hearings, debate. Why was it that the decision was to take the money out of the budget? Why couldn't we announce that a review process was underway?
It was like lightning. It struck the institution. There were immediately meetings held to challenge, how would the Westerners challenge the president?
I would hope that we don't get to that point where there is a showdown at noon out on the Western Range.
Either the president has been badly misinformed or his action demonstrates a callous disregard for the welfare of the people of the states affected.
Castigating the secretary about this list, and the president was sticking his nose in something that he didn't understand and didn't know and didn't appreciate.
And I'd also ask your assurance that environmental concerns will not be the only thing which will be cranked into your investigation.
I mean, clearly President Carter was right. These projects, when you looked at them, were completely unjustified. A complete waste of the taxpayers' money.
At one point, I said, Mr. Secretary, I'm not sure this list is all bad. I think there's some projects here that don't make sense. And it was like a ton of bricks fell on you.
Some of them are $168 million over authorized cost, $192 million over, $53 million, $11 million, $10 million. I think the review is justified.
People pulled you aside in the hallway and they said, you can't do this. We've got to stick together. We've got to hold together. This is an assault on all of us. If they get my water project, they're going to get your water project. If they get my water project, I'm going to help them get your water project.
These projects need to be looked at very closely. I personally don't believe that any of the projects ought to be built, but I'll keep an open mind.